What's up YouTube? Welcome to update number 2 of Midnight Season 2, Season 1 tier list. My name is Petko, and for the people that have no idea what we're gonna do today, we are doing a progressive tier list for Midnight, which means every single week on Sunday at 2 o'clock Central European Time, we gather on stream, discuss all classes and specs, how they changed, and exactly what they need to get better or what they need to get worse. I guess depends if your spec is OP or underwhelming. Again, everything I say is my own opinion after several weeks and months of testing and talking to people, and everything is gonna change. So whatever you're seeing right now, it's likely not going to matter in a month from now. But we like to keep it entertaining and have an pretty much up-to-date weekly updates on all classes and specs and how they do. Okay, that's all. So yeah, whatever you see right now, don't get clinged on. It will likely change. If your spec is bad, it will likely get buffed. If your spec is good, likely to get nerfed as well. So you never know. You never know. There is currently only one DPS in this game that is absolutely cooked out of oblivion. And if you haven't paid attention, that spec is Windwalker Monk. Unfortunately, there has been no changes for Monk so far. They continue to be garbage, design-wise and also current tuning. Now, am I completely dooming on Monk? No, because there's still 2.5 months of them trying to change stuff around, so they would likely gonna get buffed, but in a current state, as of today, 14th of December 2025 on the planet Earth, Windwalker is absolutely cooked from every single position possible. That's it. That is the TLDR of Monk. Enjoy. If you're Monk main, enjoy. This is likely one of the unique opportunities for you to reconsider your life choices and perhaps change a main. But don't be too swift yet, because things might change for you or might not. I guess it depends. Placement is gonna be Mistweaver Monk, by the way. Mistweaver Monk goes to the cooked bozo tier. Now, the most recent changes, which is actually a week ago, once they did it, they transformed Monk to a complete pile of shit. I mean, HPS wise you're fine, but damage wise it's terrible. Terrible to play as well on top of this. And in my opinion, it will probably need more changes for them to actually get higher on the table. I guess Cocoon value is important to note that it's still the worst external in the game, which can obviously get buffed or changed the way that it applies better for the mass amount of people. But unfortunately, as you see right now, they haven't found fit. So in my opinion, Mistweaver with the current tuning, design, and power is cooked bozo. I think Mistweaver is not really... So the healing on Mistweaver is fine, bro. Like, maybe you should put it to sit here, right? That's fine. Okay, so for the people that are here, healing of Mistweaver Monk is perfectly fine. I think, okay, perfectly fine is overstatement, but like, it's okay. It's not bad. Playstyle is bad, and DPS is bad. And external defensive is also bad. The worst, actually, not just bad. So all of those combined together leads to Monk being actually just below average. But if I had to choose between Paladin and Monk, I mean, Paladin externals in utility are better than Monk, but Monk does better healing. It's gonna go with Arcane Mage. I actually have not played Arcane Mage after the most recent class buffs, and by the way, they did buff Arcane Mage 3 days ago. So Arcane on theory should do way better. Thematically will be the same. Nothing has changed when it comes down to that, but number tuning has increased for them, therefore their performance should also be increased. However, I have not yet have the experience enough to comment on Arcane, so I need more time evaluating, playing with Arcane, playing myself as Arcane, to actually get there, in my opinion. Yeah, so maybe next week, once I get more experience, I can comment, but I should spend more time playing Arcane and I guess get better at it. Paladin, absolutely cooked out of this world. Current tuning of Paladin is cooked as fuck. The damage wise, healing wise, it's all terrible. Design wise of Paladin, in my opinion, is very good. But the output right now needs a lot more changes done to them for them to be efficient enough. But the whole toolkit, the whole design, focusing on the holy shocks, for example, the externals, is great. I like it. However, if you consider tuning, which obviously you shouldn't because it's too early, but again, we still have to measure the tuning at this point, it's pretty bad tuning wise. But This is likely the best spec to climb higher because everything else is for me personally is great, except the tuning, which I think will be, I guess mana issues perhaps at times could be the case, but most of the time you'll probably need some bumps up, in my opinion. But yeah, those two specs are just need more. But I guess Mistweaver does better healing than Paladin for sure. Damage wise, they both kind of meh. Yeah, actually, you know, I take what I said about Holy Paladin back, and I'm gonna put it. Listen, it is disrespectful to put any spec to the cooked bozo. I don't think they deserve that. Okay, I'm gonna put Holy Paladin because the design of Holy Paladin is good. I just like the tuning to get better. I'm gonna put Windwalker as the only cooked spec. Okay, now this would be better. One of them is Blood Decay, as always. I think Blood Decay is pretty difficult to evaluate its performance right now, simply because I just didn't have enough time to put the hours in for Blood Decay. But from what I've seen so far, Blood Decay did at most average. After the most recent changes, it did at most average, although notably it got buffed this week if you play Deathbringer. I believe Soundlin Blood Decay did not get touched this week, only Deathbringer got buffed. So that's all so far for this week. But yeah, and I think compared to all the tanks right now, probably within average position. Definitely worse than Brewmaster, definitely worse than Prot Warrior, most definitely worse than Vengeance DH. I think damage wise worse than Prot Paladin, but durability wise better than Prot Paladin. Maybe on the same wavelength as Guardian Druid perhaps, although Guardian will probably have better utility because of your Mark of the Wild. But DK has better way to set up pops, you know. Mass Grip, double grip as well in. You also have... Actually, no, you have only one AoE stop, right? Biting Sleet compared to what? Typhoon, Vortex, and Aurora. So I guess similar mob control. Maybe DK has better because of the grips, right? That's all, guys. Havoc is a spec that I had the most fun playing across all melee specs. Maybe like top 3 most fun melee specs that I've played so far in beta. And design-wise, with the current Eldraki, plays very good. Smooth, but the tuning so far on Havoc is just not there. Even the Felskart at times felt better. It's just the tuning not there. Perhaps if I'm playing like higher level keys, like I didn't try Eldraki Havoc on a 16 yet. I've only tried it on like 13, 14 keys. Maybe on like those kind of key level could be better. It could be. So we need to track backwards and retest on the high level keys just to check how Eldraki will compare with the rest of the specs. Even today, after this tier list, we can jump on with Eldraki or Felskar, Havoc, play it on the high level keys, see what's up. The design of the spec is good in my opinion. Way easier to play compared to the War of 10. Definitely better defensively, utility-wise unchanged. Nothing is too great there. Self-sustain across all DPS specs is one of the best in the game, which is obviously something that they have always been known to because of the leech. That's about it. But current tuning, STA with private damage, definitely not up to par with the rest of the specs. It will probably gonna get buffed at some point, I would say. That's about Havoc so far. Another spec that I like to put my incentive here is gonna be Protection Paladin. Now, Protection Paladin, although the damage is actually very good, the utility is very good, the mob control is very good. The only thing that Prot Paladin needs is just more buffs in terms of durability. Like, they are just not tanky enough. Perhaps that is something that once they did get more tanky, whether it's going to be CDR to their measure abilities or passive DR, either way, it will probably climb much higher. Because I think that is one of the specs that will never be really bad unless they are completely paper. And right now, they are paper. That is the only issue that I have with the Protection Paladin. Once they resolve the issue and buff the durability, then I have no doubt that this spec will climb higher. But once again, we measure the performance week to week, and currently, I think they deserve around this area. Sub-Rogue, unfortunately for all of you, is in my opinion performing pretty poorly. Now, the burst of Sub-Rogue is decent. That's undeniably fine. The whole output, whether it's going to be the AoE, sustain AoE damage, or in general, sustain single target, is definitely on the lower side. Although, it's been minorly buffed a while back, in my opinion, it still needs more changes to be competitive. Current tuning of Subrogue is just not there. Although the playstyle become way easier compared to the Warcraft 10, that is another point I want to make sure that you guys know. Subrogue is not one of the easiest melee in my opinion to play as a Dead Stalker. Trickster is too hard to manage, which is obviously a plus. Once they increase the output, I have no doubt this spec will climb higher. But current tuning is something that we have to take into consideration. Although nothing we say today it will be relevant in like a week or two. Everything will change every week, so this is like a weekly update of how classes are doing, right? Guardian Druid, they didn't really get any changes this week, right? I think overall speaking, you just get to see, compared to the routine, more durable bear. Damage-wise is still at most average, even at times subpar. Utility-wise unchanged, still pretty decent, and mob control is kind of the same, nothing really has changed there. Yeah, I think that's so far about Guardian. Just all in all, mid performer compared to other things. Yeah, I mean, Guardian was gonna feel less spammy compared to the Warrior 10, but the learning curve is gonna be the same. It will be intro tank, easy to play. So if you're rolling Guardian, maybe that's gonna be your go-to, I guess. Feral Druid undeniably felt better compared to last week, but I still feel like the tuning is most definitely on the wrong side of the tree. Now, I don't know why flat buffing was the case, but Rake, for example, which is my biggest complaint, does no damage. No damage. Yeah, every class has bugs, obviously, but the current tuning of Arrow is most definitely horrendous. Obviously not as worse as other classes, but it's still there. Playability or playstyle, the spec feels infinitely easier compared to the last expansion, which is always something that you actually want to look forward to, making sure it's actually easier to play and more people play it, right? But in all honesty, even if it's that easy to play, I'm fine with them being a bit higher tuned than what they are right now. So yeah, probably something they should work on right now. Just tuning. ST tuning, yeah, they're not gonna bring snapshotting back, no shot, but they might change the way the spec plays out depending on what they actually need to cycle in. An absolute horseshit of a spec, unfortunately. It got severely nerfed. I did not expect that to happen, and I'm quite saddened about that situation. But I am here to say this, PM Hunter, not only they get nerfed, but it also plays horrendously bad. The most recent changes to Barb Shot and how it generates focus is awful. Most of the time you're gonna be staffed in focus, rotation is gonna be the same, nothing has changed here, but just numbers wise is a lot lower. Your pets do less damage, Beast Cleave got nerfed to have, Q Cleave got nerfed to have, focus region is gonna be worse than before. On and on, disappointing. But you know what they say, every good thing must come to an end, and unfortunately that is the thing with PM Hunter right now. Now, Holy Priest got hotfix buffed yesterday or last night, so I'm not totally sure where exactly Holy Priest, I guess, is in the current I don't like to say meta, but in the current state. I don't know where it is compared to other healers, but so far, out of everybody that I played with, you're probably gonna end up being C tier performer. Either C tier or cooked bozo, one of those two. But that's why I'm not saying anything yet, because I'm not 100% sure how the spec plays out. So I'm gonna refrain from having an opinion yet on Holy Priest. But for the people that main Holy Priest, design-wise should feel, or at least the core rotation of Holy should feel similar to the Warrior 10, but I've also removed a lot of spells that were previously there, like Renew, for example, Symbol of Hope, for example. I don't know. I think Symbol of Hope removal is kind of a big question mark, because that was a big utility for the Holy Priest, especially in raid, when sometimes you will stack 2 Holy Priests for the Symbol of Hope, refresh on defensive cooldowns. Now that it's gone, it's kind of not ideal angle, I guess. Not ideal angle per se. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. And speaking about the counterpart of Holy Priest, Disc Priest, I think goes to the B tier. Out of everything you've seen so far, the output is definitely better compared to Holy Paladin, right? I think HPS wise, probably on par with Mistweaver Monk, but the utility they actually provide is, in my opinion, 100,000 times better compared to how they used to be. So yeah, I think that's about it so far for Discipline Priest. I mean, again, PI, shields, stamina, all of this that Holy Priest has, but better absorbs, which actually is pretty good. Honestly, Press Evoker didn't feel that bad playing, although the core rotation of Evoker has changed completely. The only bad thing about Press Evoker is as soon as they're not stuck in melee, or if the party is not within melee, your healing goes down big time. And I think that is the case also for the Warrior Tin, but now more than ever, it seems like it's very, very important to stay stacked at all times, especially in those heavy HPS checks, which is important to note. So the current healing is not extraordinarily amazing. I wouldn't say that, but it's not bad either. It's definitely better than Paladin. Definitely better than Paladin. Damage wise, I would say like whatever. Externals unchanged. They will do exactly as they did last season, right? Nothing changes there. Now, Retribution Paladin got a minor buffs this week, which strengthened the damage profile, but on a core problematic platform, Retribution Paladin is definitely an aspect that needs some changes. Like, the rotation itself felt better in my opinion compared to the Warrior Tin. You have one extra button to press. The holy power is now not regen by passive, but you have to work for it, which is, in my opinion, fine. It makes it easier. It just feels like the tuning is not there. I feel like the spenders don't do enough damage. Especially the single target spender is a little bit garbage. Maybe a flat buff for Retri Paladin can solve the issue. I've tested both hero talents and I felt they're pretty close in terms of performance. What else can I say about Retri Paladin? Prior damage non-existent. I guess every minute you have good prio. Outside of this, no. Durability for Retribution Paladin is okay. Like, not as crazy as before. Yes, you have immunity. That's pretty much it. Yeah. Utility of Retribution is fine though, because 30% perma DR, CR, Blessing Sacrifice, Freedom, Disease Spell, Poison Spell. You have a fair share of utility, but damage wise right now is the only concern of mine currently. And I'm sure with time they're gonna actually work on it and fix it. That's about that Paladin chat. Alrighty. I think that's all. Enhancement Hunter goes from B to A tier. Most recent buffs definitely strengthen their damage profile. But I gotta be honest, their sustained damage is absolute horseshit. Like the burst of MM every 2 minutes with the Pandora box, I like to call that one. It's crazy good. You know, ST, AoE, the 2 minutes burst with True Shot is fine. Perfectly fine. But the sustained damage of MM Hunter is a little bit on the downer side. So yeah, I think MM deserves an A tier, but probably between B and A tier. I guess it depends. If you're playing like low level keys, like 12s and 13s, then maybe should be like even higher. Because by the time you do damage, the rest of the classes can't do shit. So you snipe the damage. But the high level keys where the packs live longer, you're getting clapped, dude. Big time. Big time getting clapped. Arms Warrior. So the only reason why I'm saying Arms Warrior is yet unsure, because I did not explore Slayer in Mythic Plus, and after playing Slayer within the most recent buffs to Slayer, it felt really good, bro. Like, I had no rage problems, although my ST wasn't cooked. My sustain AoE was actually not bad at all. So I actually have a pretty high hopes for Arms Warrior after testing Slayer. I mean, obviously it got buffed 2 days ago. They nerfed Colossus, but Colossus was already close to Slayer, if not even worse. So that doesn't really matter. I just need more time testing Arms Warrior. As soon as I'm done, I will report back and let you guys know what's up. But for now, I'm gonna say unsure yet, and yeah, I will be playing more respec. And I will explain why. Although Brewmaster and Iron Warrior did not get any changes this week, they both continue to be great tanks following the most recent changes done to them. Durability wise, damage wise, they feel pretty good. I would say not even close to, sorry, yes, Protection Warrior and Brewmaster. They don't feel close to Vengeance DH in terms of self-sustained, the durability and damage, but they definitely do better than the rest of the tanks. So that's why it puts them to 8 here. With both specs, you can play mostly physical comps, although physical comps not as good right now compared to the magical comps, but that's gonna hopefully change with the most recent tuning, or next week, or the week after, doesn't really matter. Utility got a lot better on Protection Warrior. I mean, obviously, every single warrior got better utility. Whether you play Protection, Fury, Arms, don't matter, right? The co-rotation of Protection Warrior is pretty much the same, except that it's slower. The anger management can definitely reduce the output that you do, and also durability that you have. And Brewmaster, I think on and on, several defensive buttons have been removed. The button bloat got better. You have now one major really, I mean, your core rotation is still pretty much the same, right? Stagger, Purify Stagger, Clear Stagger, that's it. Rinse, repeat, do damage, that's it. Whenever you're weak, you kite, Ring of Peace, stun, run away, get back in, clap, that's it. Alright. So I think they're both in a good spot right now. Unfortunately, I've already talked about this, and you guys already know it. Vengeance DH is the most dominant tank right now, and nothing even comes close to this, even though they actually attempted to nerf Vengeance DH. The current damage is the best, the current self-sustain is the best, the current utility is, I wouldn't say the best, but you know, in between, it's pretty good. Mob control is pretty good, and yeah, I mean, I don't have anything bad to say about Vengeance. And also, it fits the most OP specs right now. The most OP specs are pretty much dictated by magical damage, right? If you think about it, I can't think of a single spec that is like fully physical and it's insane. None of them. Most of them, even though, let's say, even if you are melee, you still do magical damage, which Vengeance DH gives you extra 3% damage, which is pretty good, right? Yeah. And speaking about healers, you already guys know about this, and I'm gonna say it this time around again. Restoration Druid is by far the best healer so far. Damage is looking to be the best. Healing so far looks to be unmatched when it comes down to Mythic Plus performance. Utility is pretty strong because Mark of the Wild and all of the mob control that you can do, you know, Vortex, Typhoon, Mass Fruit, for example. You have a CR as well in case you don't have a CR in your comp. Yeah, that's pretty much it, you know. So that's pretty stacked. And I guess the only healer left to talk about is gonna be Restoration Shaman, which received buffs recently, more than actually less than 24 hours ago, which makes, in my opinion, the second best healer so far. Again, the only healer so far that has an interrupt. Healing wise is gonna feel better because you don't have to rely as much on RNG healing compared to actually actively using your spells to heal. Wind Fury is looking to be, I think, the strongest party buff which they possess right now, in case you don't have Elemental Shaman or Enhanced Shaman. Mob control is good healing, I would say. Damage wise, also doing pretty okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess defensively, Restoration Shaman is probably one of the weakest compared to all the rest of the healers, because you have what, Astro Shift and Earth Ellie only. Earth Ellie is like kind of a pseudo defensive, I guess more Astro Shift. The Earth Shield most of the time is not on you. Actually, it could be on you. I guess depends on the talents you're playing. So yeah, I mean, I'm in a pretty high spirits when it comes down to Resto Shaman so far. Shadow Priest, unfortunately, have been nerfed 3 times in a row. Oh, PI is not a Bloodlust though. It's PI, it's external. Shadow Priest, although it hasn't yet been nerfed this week, it will be confirmed nerfed next week. when Voidweaver gets to be pretty much, I wouldn't say hammered, but it will be a significant nerf to Voidweaver. Which begs the question, where are they heading with Shadow Priest right now? Because this is the third consecutive nerf to them. The AoE part of Shadow Priest feels to be right now kind of underwhelming, especially when it comes down to mass AoE. It used to be really good, and ST used to be really good, and now that they nerfed it so many times in a row, you know, it looks to be more than like average. I can already tell you, the damage profile of Shadow Priest is really good, right? You have good way to do damage, prior target damage. The ramp up time can be atrociously bad on like low level keys, but the moment you play high level keys is fine. The dot management is good, the design is good, the animations are good. Shadow Crush, the change now to Void Tentacle is actually pretty good, way easier to apply dots. But I don't know why they're tuning damage so low. Unfortunately, it went from one of the best picks to slightly above average. And if anything, if it's A tier right now, expect next week to be probably close to B tier. Because keep in mind all of the buffs that are all of the nerfs that are factoring in for Shadow Priest will become reality next week. So yeah, for now A tier, likely gonna be B tier by the next week. Chickens goes next in line, right next to Shadow Priest. Now, I think chickens can benefit from getting a single target buff. I'm gonna be the first to say this. They will likely benefit from having a ST buff, because on a pure ST, they, you know, not looking great. I'm gonna say as much. Now on a mass AoE, as always, Starfall is clapping. The mastery changes make your frontal burst better. You still do the same thing. You apply Moonfire, Sunfire, pop cooldowns, bang. Okay. If you play Keeper of the Groove, your Terrence can apply Moonfire for you, which can ease the amount of buttons you gotta press before you start to do damage. But nonetheless, design-wise, still feels kind of close to as before. The only difference is Eclipse is now a button. Previously used to be a passive. Now you gotta press the button. Unless you press your major cooldowns, then it's fine. Or overall, I would say a fine-tuning for single target is something that I'm looking for them so far. Maybe Elune's chosen buffs, maybe buffs on their capstone, because a lot of capstones they have right now as the general talent is pretty dog shit. They're pretty bad. So yeah, that's something that I love to see them getting buffed at. Affliction is, or has been, a center of the conversation for the past couple weeks following the most recent rework that they've received, which I'm actually a big fan of. And although the design is pretty good and so the flow of how the spec plays out, the current tuning has been nothing else but just nerfs. Nerf Theagony, nerf the Wither, nerf Unstable Affliction, everything that you know got nerfed. So now it went from actually doing good to being just average. So now Affliction doesn't do no damage. I can show you later if you like to. Affliction actually does decent damage, right? But decent. No good, no bad, just decent. Maybe slightly above average. The single target on Affliction is pretty atrocious though. Now that is something that I like to mention. Atrocity here. Atrocity of a single target. Hopefully it's gonna get changed within the next couple of weeks. But if I gotta be honest, Fire Mage is also doing atrociously bad single target Mythic Plus. I guess it depends on the build you're playing, but the AoE of Fire Mage is crazy good. Crazy good AoE, by the way. Devourer DH got its fair share of changes. Cap, I'm just kidding, they didn't get anything. Like for the past 2 weeks, nothing. Playstyle by Devourer DH is pretty weak. I think one of the easiest and boring specs that I've played so far. However, the flow of the spec, the extra mobility, the swiftness is pretty cool. Quality of life changes must be present of this spec to be good. Like for example, Collapsing Stat is terrible. On mass AoE, this spec does pretty well. On a pure ST, okay. On a smaller size pools, it's doo-doo. It's doo-doo, actually doo-doo. So if you pull big, this spec can do well. If you don't pull big, this spec does horseshit. Well, I wouldn't say horseshit, but let's just say not ideal, okay? Not ideal. That's about it so far for Devourer DH. but not as bad as you guys think. One of them is Fury Warrior, climbing from B tier to A tier. Most definitely yes. Fury now does way better in AoE damage, by the way, thanks to Mountain Tane buff, Thunder Blast as well. I mean, they also buff Rampage, if I gotta be honest too, but yeah. And utility-wise, doing a lot better. Self-sustain the same, pretty much. But yeah, pretty much damage exactly why they're buffing, why they're moving from B to A tier. And the other spec that goes to top of the A tier, in my opinion, is Assassination Rogue. Assassination Rogue also received good single target buffs, which they needed. They nerfed costumes better, but overall they buffed all of every other spec by a significant margin just to increase their single target. So now they do better ST, same AoE damage, and that's pretty much it. So for me, Arms Warrior goes to A tier as well. Well, I guess they were previously around bottom A, now they just climbed to top A. I guess few spots up. That's all, chat. That's all so far. Outlaw Rogue, the first to the A+ tier. I think the most recent changes to Outlaw Rogue increase their single target by a large margin, which makes something that used to be problematic actually pretty decent, which is good, which is something they needed. The AoE department still feels pretty sad. Now, the moment you pull very large, Outlaw probably is gonna end up crying. So if you play big AoE dungeons like, for example, Academy, if you play dungeons like Windrunner Spider, for example, Outlaw definitely can get cooked. But on a smaller dungeons where they don't play significantly big, I would say this spec does pretty well. I would even go and say decent. I guess it depends who you're playing against, right? So yeah, that's about Outlaw Rogue. The only thing that got changed this week is just single target. Just that's it. I think 20% more single target, like 22% more ST they did. Yeah, something like that, which is pretty good. Oh, energy starvation on Outlaw Rogue happens sometimes. Which is pretty funny because they never had an issue with that, but now they do at times. So not all the time, which is important to note. Okay. I think survival so far is likely the best counter spec in the game. I would love that to continue to be the case because we haven't had a survival being the best counter spec in a while. But I would say depending on the keys you are playing, it will be very close to Hunter. It would really depend on the keys you are playing, however. I would still go survival over Hunter for the most part. And I think survival also does better single target compared to Hunter. Survival also has better damage profile because every 1 minute you have major cooldowns compared to every 2 minutes with Hunter. And most importantly, I think the whole flow of the spec is more smooth compared to Hunter. Hunter is a bit more of a sleeper. You know, we have a 2.5 second cast of aim shot, which you can pretty much fall asleep in between. While survival is much more fast paced. Bomb, bomb, boomstick, raptor, 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 bomb, bomb, boomstick, raptor, 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 you know, bit more flexible, I guess, in that regard. Enhance. Claps for Enhanced Shamans. They've got buffs this week, which right now they do a lot better. Better ST, better AoE, better sustain. Utility-wise is mostly the same as always, except the Thunder Up or Thunder Knock ability. It does not exist anymore for them. Durability-wise, Enhance is extremely weak compared to all other melees. Likely the squishiest melee so far. Or it might be the squishiest spec in general. Maybe on par with Elemental, I guess. But because you're melee, definitely more cooked than usual, which is important to understand. Okay. Yeah, that's about Enhance. I think the parallel damage is good. The sustain is good. Mass AoE, I guess it could be problematic. Depends on how many targets you're pulling, right? But overall should feel better. I like Enhance. I think they do fine. Above average. And Wind Fury is also pretty OP as well, right? So another bump up, chat. Another bump up. Destruction Lock right next to Enhance. Now, a lot of people are doubting Destro Lock. Just because they got nerfed, it does not mean they're dead. The current performance of Destro, in my opinion, is actually pretty decent. Not as OP as used to be, but pretty decent. It used to be S tier, I would say now is A+, maybe A, depending on the keys you're playing yourself. Destro is very dependent on the playstyle you have or the talents you're playing, because there's only one good build across 10 other builds compared to all specs. So perhaps if you're not playing well, that's because you're playing a bad build, right? So the no Rain of Fire build is likely the best build so far, which is kind of funny because you don't press really Rain of Fire. I guess the only exception is like exceptionally high AoE pulls, like Academy first pull, right? Like 25, 30 mobs at the same time, sure. But other than this, no. Which makes the spec, in my opinion, pretty fun to play, with only kills both spam. Better quality of life management with your Immolate and Conflagrate talent that extends the Immolate to other targets if they already have an Immolate and you can Conflagrate them. Playstyle is the same, right? Conflagrate, Chaos Bolt, Rain of Fire, Incinerate in between, and Cataclysm to apply Mass Immolate. That's it. It's similar. Frost Decay got nerfed this week, but I would say redistribution of power is what they were trying to do, because they nerfed the overall damage of Frost Decay, but they buffed the hero talents, which makes them still a nerf, but not as big as you guys think they were. Because like previously we had like 16-17% nerf on Unholy, but because they buffed the hero talents, now a lot less, I would say. But still a nerf. The spec definitely is feeling and playing weaker than they were playing and performing last week, so that naturally it dropped down from S to A+ tier. But overall still the same playstyle as the Water Tin, pretty identical, except that you press now Frostworm, because that's what your Apex talents consist of. That's it. And Demonology Warlock currently, in my opinion, is A+ tier. And as soon as they fix this talent, it goes to S. But that is the only reason why I'm putting it here, because that will match the performance of the S tier specs. Overall speaking, Demo has great prior damage, great AoE, good sustain, amazing single target, is very tanky as well, fun to play, and at the same time, as always, it's the spec that has been historically the strongest lock spec, right? Across all the seasons that you've played the game. Very strong performer right now. Unfortunately, just needs a little bit more damage to get to this tier. But I'm sure as soon as they fix the Hellbent Commander, it will be in no shape or form less than S tier for now. Augmentation Evoker is pretty much something that it gets back to Dragonflight playstyle, where a lot of your damage comes from buffing allies, which makes me believe this spec will likely see playstyle of gameplay in Midnight Season 1. Personal damage looks to be pretty weak, but because of double nerf they did to the personal damage, the buffs that you provide to your team are looking better than ever. Of course, you're still going to provide versatility to your team, durability to your team, but I think you might still play Devastation over Augmentation simply because of the output that the spec provides. But overall speaking, it's a spec that I can imagine, or at least picture it being played on on high level keys or like above average key levels. So Augmentation, in my opinion, will retain the S tier, although the output that they do is not the best. It's slightly less than the other specs so far, but you never know what they will nerf or what they will buff. All right, moving forward to Frost Mage, right next to Augmentation Evoker. And even though Frost Mage has been nerfed slightly the past couple of days, I still believe Frost Mage to be an amazing performer both on AoE damage and sustained damage. Now the single target is the only area where I'm kind of a little bit cautious to say Frost is the best, because at times I could feel that the ST needs a little bit more love, but overall speaking, Frost Mage looks to be incredibly strong across all specs. And speaking about very strong across all specs, I'm gonna go with Shaman and also Fire Mage, they both looks to be very strong right now, although I absolutely hate how Ellie Shaman plays out. I can't deny how strong this spec is, especially on single target. That looks to be, quite honestly, one of the best single target specs in Mythic Plus so far. I guess it depends who you're playing against, but overall speaking, very, very fluid gameplay, at least on ST. Now, the whole rotation, the playstyle is terrible compared to the Midnight, to the War Within, because again, Ellie is losing their prior damage. So now when you play Farseer, you are a complete bad spec. The only prior that you have is if you play Stormbringer and have Tempest on a prior target. Other than this, you are a complete bad spec. Which is quite ironic because they used to be pretty good at funneling. Now, to reverse back to this, they have Wind Fury buff, which is one of the best buffs so far, or the best, I guess, depends on who you're playing with. Very, very good utility. Defensively, you're the weakest on S tier. I guess the only one that comes close to you in terms of weakness is gonna be Augmentation Evoker. I think the burst damage of Ellie is comparable to Fire Mage, but I still give Fire Mage the better of the burst compared to the Ellie, right? But sustained damage Ellie right now does better. Single target Ellie does better. Fire just have better on-demand damage in AoE, which is very important. Hence why I have them on S tier. Fire Mage, once again, once they added the Scourge back, the playstyle feels better than before, although still a bit boring because Phoenix Flames doesn't exist anymore, which is important to know, I guess. So yeah, Fire Mage still does play pretty good. Also, they buffed Fire Mage AoE because they buffed Flame Strike by quite a bit. So yeah. And last but not least, the two most busted specs so far this week remain the same. Devastation Evoker, for the first time in a long time, they are one of the best performing specs right now in the game. And I'm gonna say this because of the Consume Flame bug that they do with Pyre. Their prior damage is the best in the game, which is super ironic because they didn't really have a good prior to begin with. But now they have the best because of the bug of Consume Flame, which is probably gonna get fixed soon, but their sustained AoE damage, burst AoE damage is likely one of the best, which is the only reason why they are ending up in S tier. Utility-wise unchanged, except for the defensive part where they're actually getting nerfed. But overall, super strong offensive profile. And even ST is actually pretty decent. And last but not least, the new king of this week is gonna be Unholy DK. Unholy DK is absolutely diabolically overtuned. The single target is atrociously high, nobody comes close to you. Unfortunately, the pets are still bugged out. There are quite a few bugs surrounding Unholy, which makes them do more damage than intended, but overall, after the most recent rework and buffs to the spec itself, they are doing crazy good. Crazy good. And no other spec comes actually close to them unless you're playing low level keys, and in that case, they might. But on a high level keys where packs live longer, this spec is a menace. It's crazy good. Every minute and a half burst, every 45 seconds smaller cooldowns, just crazy good. I have nothing bad to say about Unholy. And that concludes all of the changes done this week to all specs. Once again, today is the 14th of December. Every single week, this will get updated on Sunday. So expect changes from week to week because nothing I say right now is gonna be is gonna stay this way. Everything will change. That's why we provide weekly updates for all specs and classes until Season 1 begins. And I'm sure as time passes, many specs will change will change places. The specs that are A tier are gonna go to S, or S goes to B, as you guys were witnessing. BM Hunter went from S to B in a matter of a few days, sorry. That's all, guys. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week.